Welcome back. The 30th anniversary of democracy is an opportunity to reflect on the journey thus far, the successes and the challenges, and of course the path forward. The Alexandra Theatre Company and Academy are playing a leading role in using the power of dialogue and creativity to address these issues and to ensure that all voices are heard and included in shaping our cultural landscape. To tell us more about the 30-year celebration of democracy, we are joined in studio by Alexandra Theatre Company and Academy founder Mpho Molepo, alongside with business unit head Matjamela Motloung. Gentlemen, a very good morning. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah.
It's good to have you on the show this morning. I mean, just off camera, we're just having a discussion, and you said it's not really a celebration of 30 years, but an interrogation of 30 years of democracy through a series of talks. Just take us through that.
I think it was Nina Simone who said an artist's responsibility is to reflect the times they live in, you know?
Yeah.
So as a business and an academy, we figured that a contribution to the conversation, particularly because of the election we're having this year, is the role of the artist in celebrating 30 years of democracy. What does it really mean? We then figured we needed to come up with an innovative way of having a conversation between the artists, the community, the politician, that is non-confrontational, that is wholly about finding solutions and moving forward.
Right. Now, Mpho, what is that gap that you identified that led to the formation of the Alexandra Theatre Company?
Having grown up in the township myself and started my career there, been in the professional setup for over the last 20 years, we realized that if we do not go back to the township ourselves to create such kind of a platform, then who is going to contribute in creating many other names like us? So it becomes our responsibility that after all these years and after the work that we have done, that we have to go and be based in the communities and be able to start working in producing new other practitioners and creatives in the society. Yeah.
I want us to extend this conversation to, some of the challenges or the problems or the stumbling blocks that the creative space faces in terms of its artists. I mean, you said that you want to engage artists and politicians about the current state of affairs. So what are some of these problems and what's the current state of affairs?
I mean, we have challenges that vary. Like today's conversation with Ismail Mohammed would be looking at admin and market access. Ismail is a seasoned administrator of over 40 years who's been working in the business. The next one we speak to Greg Makoma, who's like a trailblazing international. The similarities about the panels that we're putting together is that it's celebrated artists world over. But the challenges are the same when they come home: funding, access to health, access to housing, so try and create conversations that are centered around highlighting the problems without making them the problem. So the ambition of the conversations then becomes, how do we find a common voice, but also how do we appeal to corporates to say, come into the space and work with us? How do we appeal to government to partner with corporates in trying to assist the artist? So we begin to change the narrative around theatre for development in particular, but arts for development in general. Because if you think about it, if we go back to a space where we can create programs that entice people of Alexandra to want to participate in, or the people of Soweto, or the people of Tembisa, or the people of Cape Town to want to participate in, then you start dealing with other social problems like teenage pregnancies, crime, because most of us got into the arts not to be famous or not to want to be an actor. We got into the arts because we had nothing to do in the moment, and we found a way. And once you find a way, then you learn to think that you think differently, you behave differently. But it's the information that you have more than anything. And I think for us is to create market access to information, but also create programs that are beautiful enough for people to want to be associated with.
Okay. I mean, earlier on, you just diagnosed the problem as to how do we get the corporate and the government and, the political actors to come to the party in terms of funding, in terms of, opening up opportunities and access for the artist to markets. I mean, it is a burning question. How do they do that?
I think at the moment, if you look at the funding landscape generally in the creative industries, that we have so much focus around what government offers and in terms of what government has created as platform of funding. But how much of corporate funding do we really have access to, and how much does corporate play in funding the arts in general, you know? And there hasn't been enough synergies around the two worlds where we literally can see the growth of it. But in the last 30 years, government have really spent quite a lot of money. And I know corporate has contributed into major events,
Sure.
you know? But there's one part of the arts which is in the communities. What is it that we have changed in the last 30 years within communities? Have we created infrastructure that can be able to have shows performed in the townships, you know? So I think another moment, because of where we are based also ourselves in the township, we are trying to look at how are we going to be able to change that and be able to say to corporate, I think we need you more in the township, to government to say, in terms of your government focused funding, is it possible that it can be redirected to more to be in the communities and the townships, so that we are able to change that particular landscape.
And what makes the Alexandra Theatre Company and Academy so well positioned to address some of these problems? And do you want to share with us some of the success stories?
I mean, the company is it's over 30 years now.
Yeah.
It's changed form, but it's seasoned administrators who have worked in spaces, started programs, international programs. And maybe the mistake was when we were working for the big theaters of this country, the big organizations of this country, is that we didn't at the time think of ourselves valuable enough to go exist in the township as well. So we're trying to, as a company, find the best possible people in education, theatre education, the best possible people in arts admin, the best possible people as actors, to bring them to a township, and we say, come here not to window showcase, but to be. So we're an organization that has seasoned artists that have dedicated themselves to development arts, you know? And I think that's what makes us different. We understand the need to have money to be able to live the lives that we want to live, but at the same time, we understand the responsibility and the need as artists to make sure that our environment reflects us. So more than anything, the company is based where it's based to allow that to flourish.
Yeah, I think sometimes also is when you go to a township, people always expect levels of professionalism to be lower. So if you talk about a community-based organization, what is the expectation? Expectation should be maybe it's young people or it's non-professionals. Maybe, you know, you always expect that. But now you come to Alexandra, you find us.
And it's so sad because, you know, all these young creatives, whenever they want to ply their trade, they look to the big cities instead of focusing on the townships.
So then our responsibility is then to create that corridor, but also create the ownership. Do you understand? When we grew up in Newtown, everybody had a bag, and we wondered why people had bags, right? So we got bags, only to realize people have empty bags, like, so almost like they're carrying these bags for hope. But now we want to create a tangible thing that people can move from the township to the township, build careers in the township, so that when we export them with the consciousness that they need to come back. And that's the switch that doesn't happen. Like either people get swallowed by the city and they become big stars, or people get swallowed by the city and they disappear. So it's try and close that gap. So our call really is for corporates more than anything, for government to create space for corporates to come flourish in the townships.
I mean, for an example, I work also for generations as an actor. But on top of that, as an academy, we have sort of a partnership with Generation as an entity, where we have one of our students coming from the academy working there as a trainee in terms of technical work, you see. So for us, that's how we're looking at, can we be able to create, to bridge that gap between the professional market and the communities, so that the journey for these young creatives become much more easier through our eyes, because we have an experience of being around in the last 20 years within the sector. So that's the kind of work that this company is doing.
Absolutely. And just taking into cognizance the fact that the Academy has changed form over the years. Moving forward, how do you see your work evolving, you know, to suit and adapt to the demanding needs of the creative space?
Accredited education, sustainable performing arts circuit in the township, creating corridors between the township and the city theatres. So we already have working relationships with the Joburg Theatre and the Market and the State Theatre. So how do we sustain that, and how do we make sure that we can create a touring circuit for this project? So, so what you can see at the Joburg Theatre, you can see in Alex, and what you can see in Alex, you can see in Pretoria.
Right.
So create a circuit that sustains itself that way, train more technicians, train more administrators. So that's the ambition, really.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And just briefly, the series of conversations, how do we get the details?
Info at atca.com, and then Alexandra Theatre Company and Academy on social media.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right.
Well, that was Alexandra Theatre Company and Academy founder Mpho Molepo, alongside business unit head Matjamela Motloung, talking to us about the 30th anniversary of democracy.